Welcome to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we aim to improve overall health and wellness of the UT McCombs MBA community through promoting healthy habits and sharing personal wellness stories. Many stressors can emerge during an MBA, and we hope that this podcast will help you prioritize your health during your time at McCombs and onward through the rest of your life. All right, we're back for another week on the Wellness Collective at McCombs podcast. So today we're with Todd Thurston and Barrett Loseke, our own first-year classmate, former professional baseball player, graduate from the University of Arkansas, and glad that you're in our class, Barrett. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So definitely one of the coolest transition stories from, you don't hear much professional baseball player going to get their MBA. So love to just dig into that at first. Like, how did you get to become playing in the Yankees system, and why did you choose to pivot to come here to McCombs to get your MBA?
Yeah, I did not end up with the Yankees by choice. I got drafted out of my junior year of Arkansas. Kind of throughout the draft process, you have teams that are interested in you, and I knew the Yankees were one of them. But I definitely wouldn't say I grew up a Yankees fan. But after playing in their organization for 5 years, I came to like the process, and obviously is one of the most notorious franchises in all professional sports. They have access to a lot of talented people and a lot of good resources, which are really valuable. But yeah, touching on the NBA transition, it's professional baseball, and I think the lifestyle from the outside, I enjoyed it a lot of great experiences. But from the inside, it can be a little bit different than I think people see on the outside. It's a lot of travel, a lot of unpredictability, and when you first get drafted, you sign a 7-year contract. And so this past year, I retired in June. And I kind of looked at like my life and my career long term and what I wanted. And it aligned more with getting an MBA than continuing to play baseball. And so I chose to pivot. And there was kind of like, there was a defining moment. It was something that I thought about over the years while I was playing. Like, um, this is a tough life. It's hard to have kids, hard to have a family. You're like I mentioned, the contract, the team really controls you. Um, this past year I was in AAA, I was pitching really well. And I got a call. The Yankees had signed a couple new players and they were going to send me down to AA. And I had to let McCombs know if I was attending or not. The Yankees called me on a Sunday. I had to let McCombs know on a Wednesday whether I was attending or not. I was like, wow, this is just like a God thing, perfect timing. Like, and it's something I've been thinking about for a while. Like my life, like I'm not sure this is the direction I want to go, continuing to play baseball. And I had to let McCombs know 3 days later. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pull the plug. I'm gonna do it. And I was living in an apartment. I just packed up all my stuff, put it in my car, which that is professional baseball. It's living out of your car. It's like I can always just like my whole life I can put in my car. Went to New York City, hung out for the night, and then drove home to Oklahoma from Pennsylvania that night. So it was a
Wow.
crazy whirlwind, but a lot of great experiences. So
No, that's great. And what was your degree in Arkansas? What did you study in undergrad?
mechanical engineering.
Which I find that very interesting because most of the athletes I know that are playing at the Division I level, really, really good, top tier athlete, they usually go for the easier route, like a little sociology or something. But you decided to push yourself both academically and physically. What went into that decision, and does that affect like what you want to do with your MBA?
Yeah. First off, it definitely is impacting what I want to do with my MBA. I really want to get in a career where I can leverage some of the skills we're learning here at McCombs while also touching on the engineering background I have. But going into college, I was recruited as a baseball player, but I don't think I ever saw myself being a baseball player after college. Um, I was like math and the analytical side of engineering. It was just kind of a broad degree that I knew, okay, if I do mechanical engineering, I can go into a bunch of different industries out of college and it'll have like the mathematical analytical side of it that I want to do as well. And decided to do that. And baseball ended up working out, thankfully. But it was a pretty college schedule there for 3 years doing engineering and baseball.
Yeah, did you learn anything from that experience juggling? Because I did electrical engineering and it was way more difficult than I was expecting, especially, coming out of high school, thought I was, it was gonna be easy. And I can't imagine having to study for those engineering classes and then also it's like a full-time job, being a baseball player. Did you have any like time management techniques that really helped you?
Yeah, I think, when you're 19 and you're going into college, it's now I think if I knew what I knew now, I'd be able to manage it with a little bit more of a wellness mindset. But when I was 19, it was more of just like chaos of just trying to like get things done. And I was able to complete things, but and I think relying a lot on classmates as well, which to in engineering, it's a lot of getting help from classmates and collaborating, which helped a lot. But it wasn't a whole lot of managing my time as in blocking things out. It was more of just what do I need to get done today, and getting it done, which if I could go back and redo it, I would definitely focus more on managing my time and reducing stress. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think you definitely have to have that mental approach. And that's why I love baseball. And I'm really interested to hear some of your baseball stories because how much of a mental game it is. And I think that can be taken to just general life and wellness in general. Uh, and for example, I don't know a single baseball player that's never made an error. Every single person that's played baseball is going to make errors. And I was wondering if you have any stories of mistakes you made on the field and how you approach that after to get past it and keep going.
Yeah. It's this isn't just one specific thing on the field, more like an entire season. But I had a good freshman year at Arkansas, and going into my sophomore year, I was feeling pretty confident going into sophomore year, thinking that I was going to get the same results without putting in the same effort or having the same mindset that I had when I was a freshman. And I had a tough sophomore year. Didn't perform as well as I did. Didn't do as well in the classroom either. And probably a result of letting the success of my freshman year dictate my mindset going into my sophomore year. It was kind of a wake up call, like, and I think it applies to time management and classes as well. Whether it's a failure or a success, I kind of learned that you can't let it swing your emotions or dictate the way you go about your work. And so I realized that after my sophomore year, I was like, okay, this wasn't, it was not a great year. I need to focus on the process and like the things I did when I was a freshman that made me good. Um, and kind of went back and solidified those beliefs. And I really carried that into my professional baseball career as well, realizing that even if I am pitching well, it's very possible that I could not pitch well for the next month, if I don't continue to take care of my body or focusing on preparation, stuff like that. So.
Do you think it was that summer between your sophomore and junior year that you kind of really hammered that out and just kind of you got to detach for a little bit and then your junior year was a lot better?
Yeah, I was kind of dealing with a little bit of pain in my elbow as well, which was factoring into performances. But I went up and played summer baseball up in the Northeast for about a month, and I was kind of rehabbing, but kind of trying to perform at the same time. And I was in a competitive league, and I was not pitching well. But at the same time, like, my mindset wasn't how am I performing in this moment? It's how can I set myself up to do well my junior year. So it is a good point. That summer in between my sophomore and my junior year, after the season ended at Arkansas, and I was playing with a collegiate summer ball team, really set me up well for a good junior year at Arkansas.
That's awesome. And you were mentioning there, it's not just the failures or the mistakes, but also the successes that you can't get too high on. Uh, what was the feeling like of, I'd say, having an extremely successful career in at Arkansas there, you guys making it to the College World Series, ultimately not winning it, but just making it is a feat in itself. And then afterwards, you go home and it's over now. And then thinking back now, your college career is over. Do you reflect on that at all as a good memory, as stuff to build on, or is it kind of bittersweet that you kind of wish you could go back?
Um, yeah, they're obviously such valuable experiences. I wish I could go and redo them at any point just because it was, especially college, was just so fun with all my friends and experiences I'll never forget. But also, I mean, I'm happy it happened and moved on to a new phase of life as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people in the NBA, it's a weird transition where there's been a lot of success. Like Todd, with you and your polo career, super successful, and everyone else in just their industry in general, lot of accomplishments. And you come here and it's almost like starting fresh. I think it can be tough for some people, but it's good to have that approach. And it seems like you're doing it well, Barrett. And then now, so
Yeah. No, go ahead. Keep going.
I was gonna move over to like your current NBA health now, unless you got any questions about the professional baseball or anything like that, Todd?
Yeah, just a quick rewind of something that I was curious about, Barrett. I haven't really asked you too much. Is like, let's rewind to like when you're in the College World Series and you're going out there and pitching. Did you have any techniques that you had specifically? You're warming up and everything. I know that's something that's common is a lot of breathing techniques. I know Mike does that as well. Whereas, is there anything that you had a routine that you did every single time that got you in the zone? Was there visualization, something like that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. There's the difference between me and my junior year in college and in 2023 playing professional baseball is drastic as far as preparation, like mental preparation goes. When I was in college, it was physical preparation and I has maybe a little bit of immaturity. Um, but the stakes when I was in college were, I would say, higher than probably they would have been in professional baseball unless I was with the Yankees and we made the playoffs. When we were in the College World Series, pitching in front of like 30,000 people and on TV with, all my friends are watching, and I was not mentally prepared in that moment I think I just kind of blocked out the fact that I was stressed about, I wanted to perform and look good on this stage while my friends were watching, for Arkansas fans. And I did not manage that from a mental, like, wellness standpoint there. From a physical standpoint, I had my routines of, what pitches I was going to throw in the bullpen, what I was going to do on the mound, which helped me to perform physically. But as far as my wellness, like off the field, I think not managing those stresses was something that I really neglected. And then contrasting that to this past year in professional baseball, I think I developed physical routines that were better, and I was physically better on the mound than I was in college. But the discrepancies between that and college weren't that much. But from a mental standpoint, a completely different person than I was in college. I think a lot of it has to do with perspective as well. Like when I was in college, it was like I have to perform well because my identity or like my value is attached to performing well, and I felt like my friends were watching or fans were watching. Like if I don't do well, then like maybe I'm just not as good of a person as I thought I was. Whereas in professional baseball, it was when I was standing on the mound, it was regardless if I don't do well here, like I know I'm still a good pitcher, but even more than that, like it's really just baseball. Like I know Mike, you mentioned maybe talking about like how this compares to interviews as well. Kind of having that perspective going into it, like this is more of instead of like it being a threat, it was more of an opportunity. Like I got put in this position, like not a lot of people get to do this. Like this is pretty stinking cool. Even if I don't do well, everything's going to be all right. And I think that once I stepped off the field, being able to have that perspective made it a lot easier to manage successes and failures in baseball.
I love
That
that.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
That kind of goes back to we interviewed Dylan Bester, and he said something like "living life with abundance," I think was the phrase, and that's life, like you said. That's opportunities are not. It's just not a one and done. Like whatever happens, if you wake up the next day, you got another opportunity, and you can go make your success that day. Like nothing is true. There's very few things that are truly final. Um,
Definitely.
so now I mean, Wellness Collective. We'll go into I kind of want to go into your routine of you're still in really good shape. You look like you could go on the mound tomorrow and, pitch 9 innings. So what do you do now that you're a civil or, normal NBA student to keep yourself in shape and feeling good?
My workouts aren't as extensive and tedious because baseball's a lot of like shoulder care. So I'm not really taking care of my shoulder. Sometimes I wake up, oh my gosh, my shoulder doesn't feel as good as it used to. But I like to mix cardio and strength workouts. Probably lift weights 3 times a week. And baseball training, there's not a lot of long distance running just because it's short bursts of energy. So I've done a little bit more. I say long distance. I don't really ever run longer than 3 miles, but running. Sometimes I do yoga, and then a lot of tennis, as Todd knows. So
Yeah, we've had
yeah.
many battles from the fall to now, and that's been a way that Barrett and I have kind of connected. Is I think that you and I have the same sentiment. Is once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete, and it's fun when you take a step back from playing a sport professionally to be able to pour it into something else and kind of start at the ground level. And there's so much to learn in a new sport, and that's something that's been really fun for me. And been able to share that court with you, Barrett. It's been absolute pleasure.
Yeah, Mike and I actually got out there once too. So I guess all three of us have the tennis drive.
Yeah, I was shocked how good you were. You beat me pretty bad. Your serve it's a pitcher's serve. It's a fastball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it sure is.
you had the sneaky fastball serve too from playing baseball as well. So I feel like that's a baseball player thing. Is maybe the rest of the game might be a little shaky, but can sometimes sneak out some good serves.
Yeah. That's one of those things like we can play the rest of our lives. So that's really cool. Baseball is definitely not one of that. Your shoulder, you've probably saved a lot of stress on your shoulder by stopping, when you did now, because that can't be good.
Yeah, I guess we'll see if I somewhere down the road have a kid that's playing baseball and I go to throw a ball. We'll see how it's feeling then, but I haven't tested it out much since. So,
What about nutrition? What do you usually eat during the week?
um, I think I've maintained pretty good nutrition just from the habits from playing baseball. It's funny, I'm actually the only person in my family that doesn't have celiac disease. So to me, nutrition's just kind of come like you guys probably know what celiac disease is, but my family can't eat gluten. I'm the only one that can. So I grew up in a household where everything was pretty healthy, and so a lot of foods that are like have a you know, like a lot of breading or just a lot of stuff that's not that healthy I didn't grow up eating. So to me, nutrition's kind of always been, I think it's something that's really important, but it's something that's come a little bit easier just because I didn't grow up around like food that wasn't particularly, unhealthy, if that makes sense. So if I like my default now is like if I go eat a fried chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A, I don't feel very good just because I didn't eat that at all growing up. I certainly would have if I would have been given the opportunity, but unfortunately it was like I go into the pantry and there's gluten-free crackers and they're not delicious, but that's what I ate growing up because I was, that's all
That's
that my family could eat. So
Yeah, that's one of those things when you're not used to eating that really breaded food or high carb stuff. And when you do, like you said, you do have that Chick-fil-A and you feel bad, you kind of don't, it doesn't sound good the next day. So it's hard to like keep stringing those down the line. Or I think that's the thing. Like if you eat like that every day, it's going to add up. But every once in a
mhm.
while, it won't make a big difference.
Yeah, I know Todd cooked dinner one time we ate, and I know Todd eats pretty healthy, but I think it's a lot of like setting habits too. Like I didn't choose that habit growing up; it just kind of happened. But like I feel like for anyone, like they set a habit of kind of eating a certain way. Eventually, it makes it a lot easier because then when you break the habit, you're like, oh wow, this just doesn't feel good because your body's used to doing something one way.
Yeah, that I relate to that. I grew up with a family that ate really healthy, and it's kind of crazy looking back when you're quote unquote, we're not old, but we feel old. At least I fal old these days. Um, the habits that your parents set in stone and you're like, at the time, I remember I was trading like I would get carrots and I don't know, celery or something. Those were my snacks, and everyone had Lunchables. And at the time, I was like, oh man, I'm a kid with all these healthy snacks. And then fast forward, you're like, all right, this actually makes sense. I feel better when I'm eating well. But kind of going back to your family side of things, what's been your like support network? I know Dylan had talked about his faith. I know you have a significant other. What's that been like, and how have you kind of leaned in on them during this transition at the NBA?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, faith is obviously, in my opinion, the most important because it's something that, like family and friends are, you know, obviously up there as well. Faith is something that you take with you everywhere you go, and it applies to every situation. And it's always, if you need a 5 minute break, you can, whatever it is, if someone goes to breathing exercises or, if it's meditating on, a Bible verse, it's something that you can take with you throughout the day. And then, when you start, you have those foundations and that core, kind of lean on family and friends as well. I think, having a significant other is someone that you can talk to through a daily basis. But I talk to my family a good amount as well, talk to my parents. And I think they have good perspective as well, just because they've gone through, it's a transition from baseball into the working world, and there's a lot of new things that I'm learning. And so I can kind of pick their brains on, you know, how to do certain things in certain situations.
You miss the camaraderie of the baseball team?
Yeah, and there's part of that too. It's funny. You see the same guys every day, so you get used to like, you know, the NBA is a lot different. You're seeing different people throughout all the day, and you can get close to a lot of people, but it's not quite as close as, but you guys played sports growing up. It's not as close as like your teammates in the locker room. So I definitely miss part of that. Um, so yeah.
Is doing like the intramural I know you're doing intramural basketball and stuff like that. Is that kind of helping fill that void that is missing?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Since I flew back to Tulsa yesterday, they had the first round of playoffs last night and they lost. And so I'm a little disappointed the season ended. I was looking forward to getting another game in with them. But yeah, no, yeah, being able to play intramural basketball or even tennis is kind of a one-on-one sport, but it's still like being able to compete with your friends. Um, yeah, those are just valuable experiences. And I think it's a deeper connection as well when you're, working with a team trying to accomplish a goal, whether it's intramural basketball or whatever it is. So
Yeah, I think that's another big benefit that a lot of people don't think of with the NBA, but a lot of times you're switching from a thing that you've been doing for a while. You have a good support network, a good group. Maybe you're going across country to a different city and going to school, but you have all these activities and events, everything set up to where you can kind of make that new support group if you want to. Is really a nice thing about McCombs.
yeah, I think McCombs does a really good job of that as well, because there's just so many different groups that I feel like whatever your interest is, you can get plugged in, and whether it's soccer, um, intramural basketball, is start getting plugged into little groups and find these niches to join communities like that, because it is really important to be able to have that community around you.
Awesome. Well, Todd, we're about running out of time, but you got any final thoughts before we close it out with Barrett?
No, I'm like Barrett's been like I said, same thing with Dylan. I know pretty well. It's been awesome having a fellow athlete here at McCombs. It's always fun to be able to relate with people like that. There's certain things that professional athletes share that perhaps someone that is kind of in the more traditional path don't. So yeah, we appreciate you having the time to come on the show and share your story.
Yeah, and it's really, really insightful of how you use your lessons learned in baseball and how they apply to the job interview process now and just life in general moving forward. So really appreciate your insight there. Thanks a lot, Barry. You got any final thoughts before we stop recording?
No, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I think wellness is really important and something that you can, in professional athletics, it's something that you really have to focus on, dig deep, and have core values. Otherwise, uh, just from the travel and the pressures, it can really get exposed quickly. But it's also something that I feel like, as you guys have experienced in the business world as well, there can be a lot of pressures with interviews, especially the MBA process. And so it's something that you certainly can't neglect. So I'm glad you guys are doing a podcast on it and talking about it, because it's something that's really important.
Well, thank you so much, Barrett. Thank you, Todd, and hook 'em horns. Thank you for listening to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we record weekly episodes during the semester to promote healthy habits and learn about personal wellness journeys. Stay well, my friends, and hook 'em horns.